Hello, folks, and welcome to the first episode of the Moose Hunt Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Richards, and I'm so excited to be bringing you these conversations and discussions around my favorite passion, the pursuit of the mighty moose. This project is brought to you and supported by OMM Outfitters and the Eagle Lake Sporting Camps of Eagle Lake, Maine. The robust team of operators at OMM Outfitters bring years of experience in guiding, particularly around the area of moose, and we are so thrilled to share these stories to the listening public. We're going to start off our first adventure with a conversation with the man who started it all, our dear friend and boss, Mr. Nathan Theriault. Nathan is a passionate outdoorsman who got his interest in guiding at a very, very young age. We're going to hear from Nathan on how he started in the outdoors, the challenges of building a robust and competitive commercial outfitter. Then we'll transition into a conversation about an always discussed topic, choosing the correct caliber of rifle for your moose hunt. And then we're going to share a few tips and advice on why you should never change guns in the middle of a moose hunt. It's particularly my story. It's very funny and frankly a little embarrassing. So sit back and enjoy. This is one you're going to want to hear. And welcome to the inaugural first episode of Moose Hunt Podcast with myself, Chris Richards. I'm the host of this, along with my good friend, boss, mentor, colleague, master of the universe, Mr. Nathan Theriault, owner and operator of OMM Outfitters. Nathan, how you doing?
I'm doing awesome, Chris. Thanks very much.
Very exciting to get this going off, and to all the listeners jumping in, wondering about what this is. Maybe you've never heard about the operation here at OMM Outfitters before, or we're going to go through a little of the who we are, what we do, where we are. We're coming to you from beautiful Eagle Lake, Maine today on an absolutely gorgeous weekend. But moose is on the mind. And really, we're excited to bring years of experience, knowledge, stories to our listeners, really in the area of moose hunting. I'm sure, Nate, you can agree there's a lot of hunting up podcasts out there, people sharing knowledge, and it's awesome. But really, our passion is moose, and really wanting to bring that as a steady element to all of these conversations, rather than it be maybe a one-off that we seem that so many of these podcasts tend to have one episode about moose hunting. This is our thing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, since we talk about it pretty much 24/7, 365, it kind of made sense just to have something specific.
And, jumping in, to anyone out there, the information, and what we're doing we have some goals, and we're excited. We really want to be educational. We want to teach people, share the knowledge of things that we've learned over the years, guiding, hunting moose, inspirational. I think hunting so often can teach us lessons about life, lessons about faith, and also to be entertaining, because we've made a lot of memories along the way, a lot of funny memories along the way, and so that's what we're going to be doing, and really bringing the tales, the stories, trials and tribulations, success, challenges, from the pursuit of the mighty moose, an animal we all love and respect and appreciate so much. And I'm really excited to get going. But to start this off, Nathan, this company, OMM Outfitters, that I'm so grateful to be a part of. Really want to, this first episode, kind of jump into how did this all begin? It's really become an exciting, and it's more than a company. It's a family. It really is, for those of us here. And so can you kind of take us back to how you got interested in creating something like this, building this team, how you started in the great outdoors? Everyone's a little different, but kind of how did it all start for you, and how it got to where it is today?
Yeah. Thanks for the intro, and obviously super pumped for this, and educational part, inspirational, and with that comes the entertaining part of it. But yeah, I guess it more or less was something that was fun. And then there's obviously some vision. There has to be some goals that you strive for. For me, just being in the outdoors, like most of us, with family and friends, and it's just something about it. Being in the outdoors and experiencing wildlife. You just really. It sets everything else aside and puts things into perspective. And I just, for me, that opportunity with family and friends and the experiences gained, was what led this whole company to be what it is. And, some of that for me was, a lot of it was with my dad, bird hunting, going to old sporting camps. And then, of course, who are these guys? These guides running around and, beat up pickup trucks at times and driving too fast maybe. And
Yeah, right.
This seems fun at the age I was at, and getting to spend some time with them. And, for me, my dad was, big upland guy, and I just had this thing for big game, and mm-hmm. One of the guides, still very close friend, almost like a second father to me, Glenn Durgan. I was just figuring it out. Actually, he was 34 years old when he took me to go after my first whitetail, and I was 12 years old at the time.
Yeah,
I had a doe tag, and I just remembered. What I remember about him was back then was, of course, I couldn't sit still for all the tea in China.
Right.
But
right.
He'd just sit there. He would actually just stand there with like army fatigues on, and I'd be frozen, covering myself in leaves and making all kinds of noise, and he'd just look at me with the death eye.
Character building, right?
Yeah. And there was this big doe, and he says, "Put your gun up, get your sights on it." And anyways, he had me pass it up. It was a great lesson.
Mm-hmm.
So it was educational, so kind of going back to that. But the next year he invited me to go with him again. I got my first deer, it was a spike horn.
Yeah.
And then the year after that I got a 6-pointer, and then the year after that he said, "You're on your own." And I went and did it myself. So
figure it out now, boy.
Yeah.
Right?
Which was good, because it's like, look, you don't always need somebody. You gotta learn this yourself, So then ended up also with him getting to go to 56 Parallel up in Canada, and all kinds of great experiences up there. Of course I got ruined with the fishing, and but
big brook trout.
Big brook trout. And great experiences at 16. I was homeschooled.
Yep.
So gave me a lot of opportunity to take the fall time and get these real life experiences. And also went to Mechanimac. I got to fly with Jack McPhee, who was a retired game warden pilot, and that was awesome, flying in a Super Cub doing telemetry.
Mm-hmm.
And he was at the time, it was Jen Vashon was the one that was leading the program, and Jack was doing the flying, and it was cool. Of course, Jack was, he's getting a little older, so he couldn't hear maybe the greatest, so he's like, tell me which side you're hearing it on, so I'm like, left side, and then all of a sudden we're in like a 45-degree bank. He's like,
right.
You see it, so just cool experiences, and then I of course, through all that inspiration, of course, getting my guide's license was like number one on the list.
Yeah.
And
how old were you when you got your license, Nathan?
So I went to guide school with John and Tammy Rogers,
mm-hmm.
and was at Loon Lodge.
Yeah.
It was in Lincoln.
Yeah.
And while I was there, I met a gentleman that was also in the school, and he had his video camera, and he's showing me these camps up here in Eagle Lake.
Mm-hmm.
And I called Dad, and I'm like, Dad, you wouldn't believe these camps, and they're for sale. And he's like, where are they? And I told him, Eagle Lake, and he's like, I grew up there as a kid. I know those camps. So fast forward, here I am, 18. I got my guide's license at, I guess, 18, 19, right in that neighborhood.
Wow, yeah.
And came up for a visit, got to meet the owner, and packed my bags, graduated high school, packed my bags, moved up here, and was a caretaker at these camps that were built in the 1890s. At the time, they were known as the Mishu camps, and still known by many as the Mishu camps. We renamed them to the Eagle Lake Sporting Camps.
Mm-hmm.
And, spent 10 months there. Trying to figure things out.
Right. Learning as you go.
So ended up, the place actually was sold. We ended up renting a cabin there.
Mm-hmm.
The place was sold, and then the owner got them back, and then we purchased them in 2012.
Yep.
And ended up also purchasing the marina here in town, which was known as Old Mill Marina, hence the name OMM Outfitters. And
a lot of people ask that.
Yeah, it was...
What's this OM?
Yeah, OMM, just, we had the marina. We wanted to keep it separate, it's...
Right.
Marina was fishing boats, and, so... of course, hunting was my passion, and so then ended up going to college and met my best friend, Kenny Mayo.
Yep.
And, that added another 2 years to my college life, going from a 2-year to a 5-year degree.
Right.
And then, Kenny and I got together. We, wanted to, put bait sites out. We really had no idea. We hadn't worked for any other outfitters. We felt our way through this thing and ended up having some buddies that were snowmobiling up here every winter, and they liked to hunt. And, Kenny and I thought we had something going with the bear hunts.
Yeah.
Not sure if we did or not, but anyways, one of the guys there, we ended up finding out was a really good trapper and just a quiet guy, never really bragged about anything, and we actually figured it out because his friends, every picture of them holding a buck or a goose or whatever it was, Joe was always in the picture, so we eventually figured out that Joe was the one making all this happen.
Right. The one consistent card.
Right. So, in life, I think you come across, a few people that you can learn from, that are willing to teach you.
Right.
And he was one of them, and really progressed us, towards the direction of where we're at now. And, he was willing to teach us, and, that also resonated with us, just the fact that, he was willing to teach, because we've also come across the people that don't want to give you their spots, or,
right.
They don't want to give you the secrets or whatever, and you can't really learn this stuff in a book.
No, you can't.
So it's one of those things you got to latch on to, a few people and learn as much as you can. So, Kenny, we ended up having them, and our first bear harvest from OMM was, back in, say, probably 2004, 2005, in that neighborhood, and it was a 487-pound black bear with a bow.
That's a stud.
Yeah, we still haven't beat it.
That's a stud. Yeah, that's a beauty. That's a beauty.
And my first guided moose hunt was 56-inch bull. I got real lucky just driving around, but ended up parking the trailer about 10 miles from where we harvested it, and after about 3,000 miles of driving, we spotted him 10 miles from the trailer.
No kidding, right?
So I had an idea where it was going to be, just, had to do some detours. And, it was tough.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a business that you can just more or less jump into. I mean, we needed hero shots. We had to do whatever we could do to, build our reputation. Of course, nobody could take us serious. We're in our early 20s and
just jumping in and
just so pumped about everything. And the drive and determination, goals, it attracted people to us, and they gave us the opportunity to take them. Maybe they paid for our fuel,
right?
Threw us a tip. Midway through the week, they needed some help because it wasn't happening. So it was, hey, can you guys help us out? And of course, we're all about it,
right?
So. And then we just it wasn't always the way it was like it is now. It was.
Yeah.
I mean, you do whatever you can do with what you can do and what you have to work with. We didn't have equipment. We didn't have, all the right tools. It took a long time to cam trail. I remember trail cameras, like, looking at the price of those things and thinking, man, like.
Right.
we
can get 3.
We could get 3. We have like 20 baits,
Right.
And then, we caught a couple breaks. It was really tough to find ground to bait on. We had all private ground, and, we did a landowner appreciation lobster bait, and, we had to go get tax maps, and, it was a lot. We caught a break. We had somebody that gave us an opportunity to get involved in some timber ground, and, that turned into, I think we got 65 sites right now. So,
wow, yeah.
We got a pretty sizable territory. And, throughout, the almost 20 years, it just, little things here and there would help us to learn and improve and get to where we are. Looking back, I think the best thing that we ever did, and this comes from, obviously, Kenny and I we did everything together. And, every time we went in the woods, we were learning, together, picking things out, and, of course, calling on our buddy Joe Shepard, who was an inspiration to us and an educational instructor about the outdoors and how to think about wildlife in terms of being a predator, really. We obviously, as time progresses, people move on, and Kenny moved downstate, and I was kind of doing the thing by myself for a while, and he'd always come up for moose seasons. He would, I don't think he's missed a moose hunt.
Right.
But the bear hunt I was doing, and, for us, it was a time when, of course, life gets busy, and family, kids.
Families grow.
You get busy, and Kenny and I, it was the one time we got to hang out.
Right.
So I think that really helped us to develop the team atmosphere that we have now, because it's a fun time to be together.
Yes.
It goes back to how I think most of us started: family, friends, and the outdoors. I think Realtree said it best.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, I agree.
So, to fast forward, kind of to where we're at now. It's unbelievable. It's, obviously, God first in everything that we've done, and He's been our provider. He's been our successor.
Yes.
And we have an opportunity. We've identified certain aspects of this business that really is the roots of why we're here, and through that we fine-tune those roots a little every year, and we're where we're at now. But the opportunity to go out with folks that from all walks of life and educational levels and financial levels, whatever it may be, these people are always people you can learn from, and just to be able to get in the outdoors and show them, why we love what we love, and the peacefulness of it, the opportunity to give thanks to God, and and all those things, really brought this team around to what it is, and it's a fairly sizable team, Chris.
Yes, it is. It is. And, you touched on something, an underlying theme through everything you shared there. And I think it is a lesson that people can take, in life, is that, everyone you encounter really could have something to teach you. I think a key is remaining humble and knowing that no matter how long you've been doing this, always do have something to learn, always can make improvements. And particularly, one thing I found is what's so exciting and rewarding about this is how sometimes these seemingly at the time might just be normal encounters you have in your day can be life altering. You can probably think back to meeting Kenny and how probably at that time you couldn't have envisioned what that relationship would become and ultimately lead to. I know for me, when I think about coming up here, I think I got connected from shooting a Facebook message to the Outfitter page and said, hey, you guys seem like you're a lot of fun. I'd be happy to sweep floors or whatever and go on a moose hunt, and then here we are now. And to your point, I think the family dynamic of it's something we all look forward to doing now. This group of people from all over Maine, outside of Maine, some of us. And that energy, I think, is one of the things that I would guess is why people who do come hunting with us enjoy it so much. Is that dynamic. Really, it does seem that, this moose hunt has an ability, particularly I find these people come as like strangers and can leave as friends or family, and it's just so awesome to be a part of that. And really what I find so rewarding about hunting is that the return and benefit, and particularly around this moose hunt, I find you get so much more out of it than just moose hunting. And I would say, I'm assuming you feel the same way when you think about your life. It may have started because, man, these big bulls seem awesome, right?
Yeah.
But what would you say, when you think about, the pursuit of moose, what really locked that one in? Because some people, they love whitetail hunting. They love bear hunting. They may have their thing. What about the moose hunt for you? What locked that in for you as such a target passion species?
Yeah. I mean, it's they're big, and they're everywhere up here.
Right.
They're just they're so majestic. As far as the state of Maine goes, I mean, it really is the icon of the state. And I mean, I just I got to go back to the times at the sporting camps. When we pull into a campsite by a pond to eat lunch, and all of a sudden we hear this thrashing in the water, and walk down the water's edge, and you look, and there's this huge bull going down to get a big old bite of aquatic grasses, and he comes up, right, and the water's just pouring out of his rack, and he's huge, and he's just awesome, and
mm-hmm.
And then to realize you can call these things, I mean, it's just it's incredible. I guess you kind of you use what you have that's in your area, and you adapt yourself to them. And for me, I mean, I kind of chase the moose up here.
Right.
We there's there's a lot of places in Maine that are good, and I've started my journey in the Eustis area, and
mm-hmm.
Some of that western area, and then coming up here, definitely there's a difference in the amount of moose, and some of the the different terrain that you hunt up here is unique too. So I mean, for me, it was this is where the moose are, this is where I'm going. But I think it all started at a young age, and the opportunity to vocalize and just they're so big. They just leave such a mark.
They do. You're absolutely right. When you interact with one, to anyone who, a lot of people turkey hunt, the idea of turkey hunting, now make that turkey 1,000 pounds and 8 feet tall, and
go from a little toe print in the sand to a pie plate saucer in the mud.
Right.
or see a tree just completely destroyed, and there's a piece of velvet on it. That's exciting too.
Right.
Of course, Ricky's got Ricky's our velvet hunt guide.
Velvet hunt guide. Yeah. He's good at finding that.
You guys will get to meet Ricky a little later.
Yeah. We were joking about, the educational, inspirational, entertainment. It could be a spectrum of the people. I'd put Ricky on the entertaining.
For sure. 100%.
End of things.
To all the listeners, beware.
Yes, beware.
You're going to have fun.
Great guy.
That's awesome.
But
Ricky Rush.
So, we recently had, the lottery season, so to speak, for the Maine moose hunt. The permits were all drawn, and so it really is oftentimes a once in a lifetime thing for a lot of people to get the chance to do this, and in Maine or wherever even, or it's a bucket list item for people. They're going to hunt one day. They think they want to go after one moose. We really are fortunate, to have kind of found this opportunity to do this every fall, particularly guiding. It is exciting talking to some folks who are you in the lottery this year? It's like, well, I'm going hunting, moose hunting, no matter what, and it's something to look forward to. When you think about that and reflect on that, and so many people you've certainly guided and worked with over the years, thinking about this potentially like once in a lifetime experience, what would you say to people? Maybe they've got their moose permit, they don't know what they're doing. What do you think is some key advice for those individuals as they're thinking about this thing coming up in a couple of months?
Yeah, that the moose lottery, it's such an exciting time in the state of Maine. Seeing everybody gather around the festivities, and what the state of Maine's done to promote that. And of course, it's every year it's in a different place, and the chambers, whether it's Jackman or Chamber of Commerce, they just do a good job setting this thing up and keeping that tradition alive, which is unique to Maine. And like you said, the excitement and it is really cool, and then you get drawn, and then now we got to figure this out. And really, you don't have that much time. Figure the draws in mid-June, and you got June, July, August. You got 3.5 months to figure this all out.
Right, 100 days, and you're hunting.
100 days,
right.
So it can be overwhelming, And I think the biggest thing, we for us, the team is the key. We have a well oiled machine out there, and we all have one goal in mind. That's to help everyone be successful, but also to work as a team.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a big animal like a moose hit the ground, you really have to be well adapt to knowing how to handle that and deal with it. So there's that. There's the scouting aspects of that, which not everybody obviously has the tools and equipment needed to scout on a high level,
or the time.
Right. It's different. I remember driving around the woods, and there's a moose in that clear cut. I'll drive a little further, there's one in that clear cut. Habitat changes, things change, animals get more educated, they get smart, and to stay ahead of all that is a whole job in itself. But anybody can go out and do this,
right.
And the more you can learn, just like this podcast, just listening to the experience that this team has. And, this is an educational podcast. We want people to learn from this. We want people to be able to, go out there and feel like they can achieve it. And I would say, to answer your question specifically, educate yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Understand what happens when it's 80 degrees and a moose goes down. How much time do you have before, that moose starts to decompose,
right,
and break down,
right?
So that's one thing. So, and there's different ways to getting these out. When we started, it was we were hunting a lot of farm fields.
Yep.
And we'd hunt first thing in the morning, late in the afternoon. They'd be out there with the cows eating the clover. It's almost like cattle out there.
Yeah.
It's kind of easy. We'd drop it in the field, back the truck up, hook a winch to it, and, on the trailer it goes to the butcher and done. But that became a little too populated for us. Too many people hunting out there.
Yeah.
A couple articles in magazines will do that.
Right. Right.
So, the actual hunt side of it changed for us. We like to get out in the woods and experience that woods. And when you get out there and you're dealing with stumps and rough terrain and all the other thing, the caping and quartering for us was a game changer. I think, Chris, 3 years ago we just made it mandatory.
Yep. Company policy. Yep.
Yeah. And, we do a guide training, and every year we get a refresher. We talk about it. We got our in-house taxidermist, Troy Pelletier. He comes and, talks about it, and, we've done some videos on it. And it doesn't matter if it we call it right to a road and it expires right by the road. We cape and quarter it right there. And what a difference that has made, since running the butcher shop. Obviously, we got a butcher shop, state inspected. We're going on 4 or 5 years with that now. In 20 years in business, hauling in these big bulls to the butcher shop whole and hearing people tell us the stories about how tough it was and it tasted horrible. And then, fast forward to everything's getting caped and quartered, and now we're having people that are harvesting these big mature bulls, and they're like, meat was great.
Meat was great.
Meat was great. So what do you attribute that to? Well, you get the hide off it right away. You get that meat cooled down. We put pallets or something. Don't set that quarter down on a black bed liner. Let the air get under it. Little things like that are going to make a big difference. So black pepper, cheesecloth. Have a list. Think through what you're going to need out there. The planning, the prep work. Talk to people, ask questions, figure out where you're going to be, figure out where you're going to stay, learn the areas you want to apply for. You're going to put in for zones, 1, 2, how many permits are out there, how many, what's the success rate, how many bulls, how many cows, you can figure out, you can do a lot just by looking at numbers. I mean, if you're looking at a zone that, is given, 300 bull tags and only 75 cow tags. I mean, boy, it's going to be challenging as far as how many cows you're going to be competing with when you're calling.
Right.
You're really, you want a good bull to cow ratio. And I mean, little things like that, a lot of people don't think about as far as how you're going to, what's your tactics going to be when you get out there. Our tactics are obviously calling. I'd say 80% of the moose that we harvest are coming in to the call.
Mm-hmm.
And the call being could be vocalizing actual moose sounds. It could just be acting like a moose in the woods. Step on a branch here, strip some leaves. Do different things. Just act like the presence of a moose in the area. Even that works in different times of the year. And I'm sure we'll get into this deeper. They talk all night on this, but
right. Oh yeah.
Just to give the basics. Learn some tactics. Obviously calling for us has been the most successful, but we still hunt. We spot and stalk. You do whatever it takes when it's time to do it.
Right.
Where they're going to be, when they're going to be there. Thinking through, what you're going to need for gear, good tires. And then, if you could put together a team, that is going to be key. Everyone that's on the same page and understanding that, we may be quartering it, we may be using our capstone winch, we may be, using a four-wheeler if it's a place where you can.
Right.
So
have the plan, I think, is the key.
I keep saying it, and having a plan is the key. And I can't tell you. I mean, it's unfortunate, but I know that people get into situations where they just don't know how they're going to get this thing out. Now, I mean, you can simplify all this, and you can hire an outfitter. You can hire us.
Right.
I mean,
right.
and do your research and see what their plan is.
Right.
So
I think you raised some awesome stuff, Nathan. I think that key first decision, like if right now, let's say you drew a permit a few weeks ago, and that first question is, am I going to do this, or do I really not know what I'm getting into? Because that's going to be are we doing this DIY, or are we hiring a guide? And if you're hiring a guide, I think the time is of the essence. There's some people who are really, really good at it, and they tend to fill up quickly. So make that decision quick, but to your point, that team dynamic, if you're going to do that, give people specific jobs, and make sure that your team is additive. I can think back to some hunts I've been on where, before doing this, in a guiding, actual outfitting, professional type atmosphere, just family and friends, there's been some teams I've seen put together that weren't exactly additive to the success of the experience. Pick those people wisely, because it really often is that once in a lifetime experience, and you want to get the full return on your week. The goal, harvesting a moose, no question, but it should be a fantastic time. It really should be, and the people are key to that.
Yeah, I think that you nailed it. I think we do that with the guides, understanding the clients and, understanding our team's individuals' personalities. And, it's important. You're going to spend a week in the woods with people, and you want to make sure there's a good meld. And it's just going to help the overall success. But number one, the experience. So, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
And two, I think, you did also touch on something, the department, Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, and, how they partner with these towns to do this lottery really is awesome to see it throughout all of Maine. And, we were in Jackman and had an absolute blast. They did a great job with it. But that is a phenomenal starting place, resources that the state publishes around historical harvest data. I mean, you can go on the IF&W website right now, and you can find township harvest data back over a decade. For moose, look at success rates in specific zones. And you also should study that. Maybe you didn't get drawn. Maybe you've never applied and you're thinking, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to apply for the moose hunt next year. That's really an excellent place to start your homework, getting into this game of pursuing a tag. And one thing a tip I like to say, and these things come up to mind and really do trying to make this educational tips for success. One thing that comes to mind, I don't know why right now, I'll certainly share it, is I always get this question. I think I had someone ask me at the lottery. They'd pulled a permit, and they're like, what new gun should I go get? First thing right out of the gate.
Good excuse to buy a gun.
Good excuse to buy a gun. And what caliber should I get? And this and that. And I'm never one to discourage someone from buying a new firearm. I'm all about it. I think the key is, I always tell people, and that's one regard for me, is just make sure it's a firearm you know how to use. if I were to quickly say, I'd say use a gun that you've been using your whole life, so there's no challenges. But if you've been hunting with bolt action rifles your whole life, you might want to probably stick with a bolt action rifle on a once in a lifetime moose hunt. Those types of things. But any thoughts you have on that, experiences you've had around firearms and the glitches that can happen in the guiding industry with them?
Oh, it's some of the stories. I mean, we've had guys show up to bear camp and go to the range and shoot, and their scope falls off.
Off the gun.
It falls off the gun.
Right. Right.
Have two guns.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, you said it. I hear that discussion so much, see that discussion, and obviously it's definitely probably the most asked question, which is it probably wouldn't be my first question, but having obviously a sufficient powered firearm, I recommend 30 caliber or better.
Yeah.
But more importantly, having something that you shoot comfortably, not necessarily the gun you go buy tomorrow.
Right.
It's the gun you've had for 10 years that you've shot, you've harvested 10 animals with,
Right. Old faithful.
It's your grandfather's gun, you know what I mean? That
Right.
always worked and never failed,
Right.
And the gun you're just most comfortable with, It's but it definitely can be fun, going out, purchasing a new firearm, getting to smell that new gun and buying, every different grain available for ammo, and every different brand, and
Right.
sitting down at the bench and shooting until your arm's red and you got scope eye and every other thing.
Right. But to your point there, if you're gonna buy a new gun, you should do that.
Absolutely.
Don't buy one 72 hours before you leave for moose camp.
Yeah, go throw 4 rounds through it and say you're good. Go shoot that thing and
Right.
get used to it, get comfortable with it, and it's a big part of it.
Yeah, and one thing for me, that caliber discussion is one. Oh my goodness, we could talk for a week about ballistics and this and that. Shooting well, shooting comfortably, I think, is number one. You don't need to hunt with a 375 H&H, and if
I think you got some stories about that.
I do moose hunt with a 375 H&H.
Hey, a buffalo gun's not always a bad idea.
Right. I mean, if someone can shoot one well, please, I'm never going to complain about, a client being overpowered, so to speak, but you need to be able to shoot it well. If you buy a gun, depending if you're a smaller frame person or you're just, some people don't handle recoil well, it can be a violent thing. And so if you're flinching shooting a gun, that's not the gun you want to bring. Please don't flinch when you have that, you go back to the investment, for that success, whether it's, a client of ours or if it's your own hunt or, someone DIY, your scouting, your time, all that work goes into it sometimes to harness a 5-second opportunity, make sure that equipment that's automatic, you know what I mean? That's the key thing, I think, for sure. Shooting well, shooting confidently, well-placed shot. There's a million discussions around where shoot them behind the shoulder, take out the wind, and move forward. So,
yeah. Shot placement is everything, and comfort level.
Yeah,
it's all relevant. And obviously something you want to start, like you said. The day starting before you get drawn.
Right. Right. And two, I mean, sometimes, the woods can be fascinating. I found is, I get the question all the time, how far are most of your shots? And I would say under 100 yards typically. but you know, you never know what's going to happen in the woods. And there's certainly some spots I can think about if you're coming out hunting an area that's been timbered, and you can come across and see a moose out across a clear cut 400 yards. You know, if you've never taken a 400-yard shot,
Don't do it.
You shouldn't be laying down right there to have your first one be,
Yeah.
on a moose.
It's all about respect at that point for the animal, in my opinion.
Right, 100%. And when they're that far away, you can make a play,
For sure, yeah. And the experience there again, when I go back to it, is going to be the reward is going to be much greater knowing that than just trying to take a shot like that. And I tell people, along those lines, as far as shots, and I think that to get yourself ready, I tell people, have a bench ready to go, have a target that's 30 yards, 50 yards, 75 yards, 100 yards, 4 different targets, and then do a brisk walk to the area that you're going to be firing your weapon from. Obviously carry your weapon, because you're going to be carrying it in the woods.
Right.
And when you get to that, fire around kneeling down, fire around sitting, fire around offhand standing.
Mm-hmm.
Have a pole, because Maine woods are pretty thickly wooded, and there's a lot of trees that can assist you in that shot.
Yeah.
Shoot from that, and then shoot from all the different yardages. Obviously your heart rate's going to be up. That's going to resemble that big old bull coming in, just snot just rolling out his nose, and the smell of the rut on him, and tearing some trees up, and your heart's beating out of your chest. You're trying to control it. Your breathing's starting to get out of control, and you're shaking, you're sweating, you're get ready, folks. This is what it's going to be like.
Yep.
And and you do that, and you do it enough, you get that. At least it's never going to be like what it really is, but you're heading down that road.
Right. And to your point, especially if you've never moose hunted before and you're going this year, or you want to go, the excitement you'll feel when you got a bull coming in, grunting every step, smacking trees with their antlers, you'll be stunned. To this day, I'm like, I can't believe how much noise these things can make, intentionally. And I'm going to share a little story, Nathan, of embarrassment from way back in the day. I drew my first moose permit. I've been blessed. I've pulled a couple of them, but this goes back to hunting with guns. I had a permit back in, I don't know, over a decade ago, and over in Zone 8, and we went in hunting, and we were having a great week. It was just, we had frost every morning. It spit snow one day, and the moose were just fired up. And I think we'd seen 13 bulls by the end of the day Wednesday, or the end of the day Tuesday. So it was a really just great hunt. Found a couple groups of bachelor bulls, and anyways, I did end up shooting one. I ended up shooting my moose Wednesday morning, but the challenge was I'd done something to my back. I don't know, picking up rocks or something at camp. I don't know, but I tweaked my back pretty good. And I had my, Old Faithful bolt action Browning 7mm Magnum. And at the time, that's what I had. And then I had to, get a bigger gun, later, as I mentioned. But
The buffalo gun.
But my uncle was hunting with us. And going out the hunting group party was myself, my father, and my uncle. And my uncle had a new semi-auto BAR that was super light, synthetic materials and stuff.
Ricky Rush loves those guns.
Then they are great guns. They are great guns. But you're going to know immediately what happened when I tell you what I did. I'm used to hunting with bolt-action rifles my whole life, so I get out of the truck, put the mag in the gun, and slowly close the bolt, put the safety on, let's go hunting. Close that bolt as softly, quietly, and gently as possible. So we park the truck, I get out, throw the mag in the rifle, I pull that slide back, and I let that slide down as gently, softly, and quietly as possible, to the point that it, you got to let those semi-autos lock and shut.
It's called a catch and release.
Yeah, well, it didn't fully catch. So we walk down this winter road, and it's perfect, and we get almost to the end, and we're just walking down to this area we're going to call, and I hear this cow just light up, just screaming. And there's, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm like, oh, come on. So we just sneak down the winter road, and off on the ridge on the left, I see this cow coming down off this ridge, and there's a bull walking right behind her. And they're walking right down to this winter road off this little ridge to the left. And I'm like, I look back, and it was a mid-40s bull, and I'm like, I'm going to take him. And so they turn, and they're walking down the winter road, Nathan, straight to us. And all I can see is his antlers out each side of the cow. He's right behind her. My blood is just pumping.
Sounded like a grouse drumming.
Right. Just, and I look back, and I'm like, to my dad, they're right there. I'm like, I'm going to shoot him right here. The cow ends up kind of stepping off to the left, and they're maybe 30 yards. And I pull the trigger on that rifle. Click. Bolt never shut all the way down, wasn't even pressed up against the bullet.
Catch and release.
Panicked.
Eject your shell.
Pulled the slide back, but it wasn't locked on the bullet to even eject it. Pulled the slide
jammed
back,
another one
let
in.
it go, double fed it, jammed it solid, so hard I couldn't even move the slide. And the bull's coming. Bull's coming in. My dad was my sub and was carrying the gun I knew how to use. I hand that semi-auto to my uncle. I grabbed the bolt rifle from my father, and we got the moose. But that right there is like the prime example of knowing your gear, and practicing with it. I made a last-second decision, partially because I had, I hurt my back, and I thought that lighter rifle would be easier to carry, and it was all for good reason, but had a mishap just because of ignorance, I guess I'd say. And so I think that's a prime example. It's a little entertaining. It's good for a chuckle. I certainly looked. It was a rookie move if there ever was one, but it's one that's made
for sure.
And should be a lesson for folks as we kind of have ended up, discussing firearms and that type of thing. And so we're coming up, Nate, on the 1 hour mark. To kind of close this up here. So as you think about, always want to try to end these with, a piece of advice for the outdoors, someone interested in the industry, hunting, whatever it is. As you think back on your experience and those types of things, if you were advising someone, maybe they're kind of like you were when you were in your teens and you're getting into hunting, or maybe they're in college and they're thinking about, pursuing some type of outdoor industry career, what would be a piece of advice you'd give someone if you were to talk to your maybe 18-year-old self as you were just getting into this game?
That's a tough one. Knowing what I know now.
Right.
I mean,
hindsight's always 20/20.
We made it. Have a plan.
Yeah.
And understand the dynamics of whatever you're going to get into. Maine is a short season.
Right.
So if this is what you want to do and this is all you want to do, you got to have a plan as to how you can make that work with the seasons that you have available to you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you get as much experience as you can. Listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
And listen to the team.
Yep.
And the experience that everybody brings to the table, because you're going to quickly know and understand, or maybe not. I mean, you want to listen to them all because there's a lot of information you're going to get. But,
right.
The more you listen and the more you hear, the more you'll see what it really takes to do what we do on the level that we do it. But everybody can do this. And if this is something that you want to do, having that dream, that vision, that goal, it's all achievable. And, I had people along the way say, do something else because, they couldn't make it or whatever. But you got to have that dream. You got to have that vision. And, I think the biggest thing in this business is give credit where credit's due.
Yes.
Be humble, like you said. Be kind, have ethics, have morals, and be a man of your word. Because at the end of it, that's all you'll have.
Right.
And I think that if you just with those things, obviously it takes years of knowledge to really get good at the game. But just having that foundation is going to help success.
Knowledge. I heard this one time. It was that knowledge without mileage is nonsense. Someone told me that. And that may be true, but we all start somewhere, right? And so this resource, other resources, be a sponge, I guess, is a good one. I heard Kenny say that. Take it all in, learn. And certainly we're going to be here. We're excited to have this podcast going. This is the first episode, but we have a lot coming. We're excited to share stories of experiences, some of them a little embarrassing, like double feeding a rifle when you think you know what you're doing. But really to share it all for some laughs, but also there's going to be a lot for people to take away from this. And with the size of the team we got, the different perspectives, I'm sure there's no question going to be someone that anyone listening will be able to really connect with and learn from. So.
Absolutely, Chris. You're the man. Great host, and just super proud to be a part of this team, and hopefully you'll have me back on the podcast.
Yes, yeah, I got you on the short list. So
I like this. This is fun.
Awesome. So with that, we'll wrap this up. To everyone out there, be safe, God bless, and take care.